各位上海 GSISS 演讲会的来宾，你好，我叫魏卡尔 Karl Weaver。今天下午我会提供这个演讲，希望大家蛮有意思听到我的演讲，谢谢。我将要发表的演讲名为《亚洲人工智能芯片供应链和生产式人工智能手机革命》。
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us here. I'm Rob Tiffany. I'm a research director at IDC, and I'm lucky to be joined with Karl Weaver today, the expert in Asia Pacific everything. Hey, Karl, good to see you.
Rob, it's good to see you. Last time we connected, I think, was for some private wireless stuff about a month or
Right?
so ago. And it's been pretty quiet here. But I was in Asia, in Singapore, and then when I returned, all this hype about AI, AI,
Yeah.
AI. And I was involved a little bit with that when I was integrating the Internet of Things with blockchain technologies. We call it the blockchain of AI things, but we really didn't have the AI component. But when I came back, I realized I put my Newport technologies back into service to become the evangelist here in Washington State for the AI chip supply chain. So
Uh,
that's what I want to discuss a little bit about today, the AI chip supply chain. And so why
That's
don't we
awesome.
just,
Do you
I,
have you have a presentation to share with us?
yes, I do.
All right, let
Yes,
me
I
make sure. I
do.
think I've got sharing turned on for you, hopefully.
Yep. Let me go
Oh,
to share.
always fingers crossed.
Okay, allow.
All right.
And there it is.
Looks like
And
something's working.
yep. So let me see. Let me go here. Can you see everything?
Yeah, I sure can.
Fantastic. So we'll jump right into it.
All right.
So
Wow.
as you know, I don't know. We don't know each other that well, but we've run into each other. My home is in Woodinville, but I'm a bilingual Mandarin speaking US citizen, and I have been involved in the Asia Pacific region promoting cutting edge technologies from after finishing my Mandarin studies in Taipei, Taiwan. I jumped into the microcomputer motherboard manufacturing industry. And then I rode that working in the land mobile radio communications industry with Zetron over there in Redmond. You probably know them. You
Yeah,
know
I know Ztron.
yeah,
Yeah.
I worked for them until 99. And then I jumped into the digital cellular world. And I've been in the mobile space since around the turn of the century, around 2002, actually 2001, 2002 timeframe. And I migrated up and I went to work in Beijing, China to bring mobile payment and mobile device security to the world. Then back to Washington State, and I was involved in you got to know me when I was involved in eSIM and iSIM,
Right.
and and then I jumped into protection of crypto wallet private keys on mobile wallets on Android smartphones. And then I went to Singapore for 2 years, integrating IoT to blockchain. Back now, jumping into AI, I think it's a really good topic. But what I've discovered here with all these AI people that I run into, they have zero clue about the supply chain. I mean, less than zero. So
Right.
I felt it important to explain because most of the people that you run into here are basically software people, and they don't realize that there's a hardware element,
Right.
a very important hardware element. In fact, if you don't have your AI algorithm embedded into your mobile app's processor chip, either at the edge on the device or in the cloud at the server at the data center server, um, then you're not going to have any security, and then you spent all this money in developing the AI algorithm, and somebody's going to steal it. This
Good
is
point. Yeah, that would be bad.
yeah. So today's presentation is called "The AI Chip Supply Chain in Asia Pacific and the Gen AI Smartphone Revolution." And I'll overdub in Chinese later on because I don't want to
Sounds
disturb you too
good.
much, man. Some Americans freak out when I start speaking Chinese. Anyway, so that's the presentation, and basically this is for GSISS. And at this event, now this event is Taiwan's semiconductor industry, and they
Okay.
have an event going on in Shanghai right now. And the second part of this presentation I will separate because I've presented in China remotely before and they censored some of it. So I need to be a little bit careful.
You never
So,
know. Can
uh,
you give us a taste of Mandarin just right up front? Like tell us
okay,
your
yeah,
title?
sure. It's 亚太人工智能芯片供应链和生产是人工智能手机革命. That's what the AI chip supply chain is and the
Very
Gen AI
cool.
smartphone revolution. Rob, I've been speaking Chinese for 40 years.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, and when I went to Singapore, I also learned Hokkien, which is sort of Taiwanese dialect.
Okay.
And they're asking me, "What planet are you from?" Because Singaporeans are supposed to be good in Mandarin, but they're not. They are good in the dialect, which is most of the Singaporeans came over. Um, so Hokkien comes from Xiamen, China, migrated to Taiwan, migrated to Malaysia, migrated to Singapore, migrated to Indonesia, and all the overseas Chinese speak it. It's not the national language, it's a dialect.
Right.
Anyway, so artificial intelligence, what are we talking about here? We're talking about algorithms, which is in Chinese 协议 or data, 自宣, and also computational power, 电力, 数字电脑电力. And so really it's about these three elements. Let me move forward.
Okay.
A little bit introduction. They called me when I was working in Beijing, bringing mobile payment, mobile security. They called me the rainmaker. And I said, well,
Wow.
that's a little bit appropriate because, Seattle has a lot of rain. But the reason they did that is because I enabled a bunch of different ecosystems, and I had the authority to do that without any politics, working for Gemalto, which is a French smart card manufacturer. A few years ago, about 5 years ago, they were bought by Thales, which is a bigger semi-governmental agency. Thales does everything. It's a huge company. They
Right.
even do, they even do, them. They do server
Yeah.
technology. Um, so I've been in the smart card and semiconductor sector for more than 20 years. And I also worked for Freescale Semiconductor down in Phoenix, Arizona, before they were acquired by NXP. So I cut my teeth in the smart card and semiconductor sectors over the past 20 plus years, but I am a mobile device specialist. And Newport Technologies I use to help sell technologies to Asia because, first of all, you have to know Taiwan, you have to know China, you have to know all of Southeast Asia because Chinese diaspora, really, they are the ones that bring the investments, the land, the labor, the capital, the management. They're the ones that bring the investment to produce all of this ICT sector technology. It really is Chinese money all over Southeast Asia. So when you see
Okay.
it migrating to at least Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, that's still all Chinese money. India is a little different ball game, but actually the Chinese have invested also heavily in India. But there's some there's a little bit of a tension situation going on there.
Yeah, they have a little bit of tension sometimes, don't they?
Absolutely do
Yeah.
because this is historical. So this is me at the Mobile World Congress 2024 when I just came back. Anyway, so Newport Technologies. In Chinese, it's 美国新港科技. That's the name of Newport Technologies. And the value
Okay.
proposition is strategic growth enabler. I help to connect these players in the AI ecosystem because, Rob, I'll talk about this continuously. 90% of all the AI chips in the world are made in Taiwan, TSMC's factory in Hsinchu. The market expansion expert. I help to expand your Asia Pacific foothold and your footprint because I've been doing this for 3+ decades, all over Southeast Asia and Greater China. Right? I help you to generate revenues for your footprint. If you need to sell something that goes into the cloud or something that goes at the edge, I'm the guy to talk to. And I'm also an industry insider, and I've been involved and have met some of the most famous people in the wireless and smart card and semiconductor world. In fact, Rob, let me share this with you. I met Morris Chang as I was finishing up my Chinese studies in 1985, and I went to the Brother Hotel. I was chatting with a Chinese friend of mine, lady, and she said, "Hey, I want to introduce you to this guy, and go to our coffee shop and have a chat with him." She was trying to help me get a job. I didn't realize that. And this is 1985,
Wow.
and I'm like excuse me. I only know how to use Microsoft DOS and
Sure. Yeah.
WinStar word
Right.
processing. This is 1985. Okay. So he was talking to me about semiconductors, and I really didn't know it. A few years later, I was the youngest American working in Taiwan's microcomputer manufacturing industry. We made motherboards. And I got to meet all kinds of Intel, AMD people. So I met him, and then I met him a little bit later on because he was then working in Taiwan. He's not Taiwanese, he's from China.
Okay.
He's TI executive. Anyway, let me move forward.
Yeah.
So Newport Technologies success stories. From 2003 until 2025, I've contributed to bringing at least 5 or 6 of these mobile technologies, smart card related mobile technologies, mobile payments, NFC, contactless mobile NFC payments, TE, embedded mobile device security, eSIM, iSIM for ARM, and the blockchain of AI things. I brought all of this technology to the world simply because I'm a business development person and I'm bilingual in Mandarin, and my whole life is living and working and selling technology to Asia. I helped to co-found the first Web3 deep in green energy data infrastructure network. It's called Akron or the Green Arc.
Okay.
We called it the Green Arc, and that's still up and running in Singapore. Although they migrated because China is very anti Bitcoin, and they're pro blockchain but anti Bitcoin.
Okay.
Singapore Ministry of Authority has become somewhat anti-Bitcoin as well. So the Chinese went there, invested in Singapore around 2021, and brought their blockchain projects to Singapore. One thing they discovered was, okay, Singapore doesn't really have the manufacturing and R&D capability of China. So in 2023, I was invited to sit on a panel about Web3 in Hong Kong. And the rumor there was the Hong Kong government was going to open up Bitcoin and blockchain for Chinese companies only in Hong Kong. So
Okay.
you can now use stablecoins, Bitcoins, and blockchain projects in Hong Kong only. But of course, it's a hop, skip, and a jump over to Shenzhen, where the
Yeah.
real R&D and manufacturing takes place. So I've been involved in market expansion with many different technologies, revenue growth, all over this ecosystem and the supply chain. It's kind of funny, you and I never met before the first time with eSIM and iSIM. And by the way, that was the first presentation. I think we met it when I gave that presentation. That was in 2007 or 8. I gave that presentation. That's very early on. Anyway,
Absolutely.
AI chip supply chain. This is very interesting. So, as we said, Taiwan makes 90% of all the AI chips, and they also make the GPUs for NVIDIA. NVIDIA, as you know, is a design house.
Yeah.
They don't actually make it. It's made in Taiwan by TSMC. And of course, Samsung makes a little bit of AI type uh, GPU technology as well, but really it's Taiwan. Now, the US is responsible for at least 50% of all the AI algorithms in the world, but sorry, the US is responsible for more than 50% of all the AI algorithms in the world. That's actually much more than that. But China also is responsible for AI algorithms. Now, here's the
Okay.
caveat. 50% of all the AI algorithms come from people who were born in North and Southeast Asia. That means the Chinese and the Indians. So this is a very significant point, and it's really the FANG organizations that are propping up and employing these people. Whereas if they were in their own countries, it might be very difficult to rise to the top because competition in China and India is really cutthroat, more cutthroat in China than in India. Now, China has also playing a very key component because the server technology, companies like Inspur, which is from China, and Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu, these companies invest in the server technologies, but Taiwan OEMs and ODMs actually also bring the production into through Foxconn, Honghai. They bring the production of cloud AI, cloud data center server technology into China to manufacture. So quite honestly, AI is an Asian technology. It simply is when I explain it that way. So the Asia Pacific region is pivotal in the semiconductor fabrication, obviously the fabs, and now, of course, for cloud center server technology, that's China, and Newport Technologies. I'm the bridge. I'm the Silicon Bridge. Now,
That's what I'm
uh,
going to start calling you now, the Silicon Bridge.
thank you. Strategic multilateral collaborations for sustaining resilience for this AI chip supply chain because Really, there is nobody else in the state of Washington who does what I do because, first of all, I've been speaking Mandarin. I lived in Taiwan 10 years. I lived in Beijing 5 years, and I just spent 2 years in Singapore. You knew me before I went to Singapore.
Yeah, totally.
Otherwise, I'm sure you'd be saying, Carl, you're full of it.
You're full of it, Karl. I love Singapore. That's such a great place.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I'll tell you, it really is. And we were able to build a deep-in project there, and that project is still ongoing. But Rob, I'll tell you, I have a little bit of problem with some Web3 people. I think there's a lot of nefarious activities on things like Discord and Telegram and Instagram. There are a lot of nefarious people just trying to sell Bitcoin and
Oh, yeah.
scams, hackers. So I always tell people be very careful when you're in Web3 land because a lot of software hackers and you just don't know who you're talking to and you can be scammed very easily.
That's so true. Yeah, good point.
Um, But if you think about what I talked about AI and you think about semiconductor companies, quite honestly, TSM leads, but NVIDIA is also very, very large, but they don't make anything. And actually, TSMC produces for NVIDIA. And I actually visited NVIDIA, I think it was around, got to be about 15 years ago, when they were more aligned into basically designing chips for NFC, or at least trying to. If you look at the top 100, the top 10 countries, the United States, of course, is number one. Then Japan, Germany, India's there. There are about 10 countries that are quite powerful for AI algorithm development. And of course, data centers. Now, the US controls the data center market. There are over, this says over 4,000. I think it's now more than 5,000. And China has about 450 of those data centers. But there are other data centers around the world. But quite honestly, in terms of cloud providers, cloud itself, Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu, AWS, Google, and Microsoft.
Yeah.
That's basically it. Let me move forward. So as you can see, the value proposition for the AI supply chain. Well, how can you sell your AI algorithm or your inference solution
Mhm.
unless it's embedded in a chip? And how can you sell that when if you were to go to TSMC and knock on the door and say, hey, TSMC, I want to use your engineering and manufacturing services for a chip. They'll say, "I'm sorry, we have a 5-year waiting list." So you see, unless you have the connection, you're not going to go to Taiwan and just cut a deal. And this is
Right.
not going to. However, 8 years ago, Rob, I was asked to lobby the Washington State Office of Trade and Economic Development to bring TSMC to Everett. There were a bunch of investors here who, and you probably heard about this, they wanted to bring TSMC to Everett to manufacture near Boeing, where all this huge supply chain of vendors is that could support Boeing.
That's a good point.
Um, but they were unsuccessful, and I still am not 100% sure why, because TSMC has a packaging facility in Camas, Washington. And as you know, Oregon is still producing
I
semiconductor
know
chips.
Camus. I have family in Camus, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, very close to Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah,
But the real key is, you live in Camas, you don't pay sales tax, you don't pay income state tax, but
right.
you buy all your goods. You go 10 minutes over the bridge into those duty-free zones in Portland, and you buy all your goods. You're not paying sales tax. It really is one of the nicest
Absolutely. That
solutions.
is a good deal.
It really is. So I've got relationships with strong players like TSMC, MediaTek, ARM, NVIDIA, Qualcomm. I did work for ARM, as I said, and I pushed all these technologies to most of these companies. I've got expertise in this Gen AI smartphone integration and the AI chip supply chain efficiencies. Inference is really, really very, very important with that because that's how you create the Gen AI solutions, whether it's an audio or video or some kind of coin tokens that you're creating to create maybe a go-to market report. So I've uploaded, you know, as a Mandarin speaking American, I realize that people don't understand my career. And then they say, well, I don't believe you can speak Chinese. I've had everything under the sun. So around the turn of the century, I realized that I needed to learn how to do public speaking and explain my who I am and what I do because people just didn't believe it. And so I started Newport Technologies actually in 1999, and I started to do public speaking, and I became the first public speaker on smartphones on Microsoft's campus uh, in 2002.
Sure.
Oh, sorry, early 2003, and I gave that first presentation, and then I gave a presentation in Tacoma for Pacific Lutheran University, this China Bridges conference, and I gave a presentation. It was captured a video. I said, "Wait a minute, we got something called LinkedIn. Wait a minute, we got something called YouTube." He gave me the video. I uploaded it to YouTube. I broadcasted it on LinkedIn, and then Informa Telecom in the UK said, "We'd like you to come and give a presentation about this smartphone revolution." So I gave the first presentation in the world, especially in Europe, on the global smartphone revolution, China, the mobile digital dragon. And that's still up on YouTube. I was invited to the brewery in London by Informa Telecom to give that presentation. Fortunately, I used my 1999 camcorder, not the greatest video capture, but it's okay, and it's up there on YouTube. So I realized that when I use video content to explain all this technology, it certainly helps. Now, in 2008, I was invited to bring contactless mobile NFC payments and then the TEE to China. But in China, they ban everything, and there's no no YouTube video, Facebook. It was all banned.
Right.
And I said to the French management, you have to allow me to do things that are very out of the box and not very French-like, very organized. They said, fine, Karl, we need to push this technology. And I said, I know how to do it. So I started to deliver my public speaking at least 90% in Mandarin first on my camcorder, later on my iPhone. And then I uploaded it to local Chinese video streaming websites to reach the C-level and engineering people inside China, all legally, essentially legally overcoming the Great Firewall of China because
Yeah.
I'm there and I'm doing my public speaking. Even though my website, as I was working in China, my US website, Newport Technologies, was banned in China. Figure that out. Figure that out. Okay. So then um, I have since that point in time given more than 300 public speaking presentations in Europe, North America, and of course in Asia. And I continue to do that every single day. And now I have a speaking gig here in Shanghai for the GSISS organization, Taiwan Semiconductor Organization. But unfortunately, due to scheduling, I cannot be there. Therefore, this presentation is really about giving this presentation so people can
Yeah.
understand, people can see the value, and because there'll be lots of Chinese companies and Western companies there, I want them to realize that they can use my services at any time. Data is not just the new gold, man. It's not just the new oil; it's the new gold. And Newport Technologies, I use my digital assets in the AI world to help you, and that's my goal. Now, let's talk about generative AI smartphone revolution. Basically, through this advanced AI chips, Gen AI has now come down to the edge. And what I mean by that is on smartphones with A17 and 18 chips from Apple, but also Huawei, the Ascend chips as well. But what you have now is AI at the edge on smartphones as well as IoT devices, which I know is your hot button. So when you have AI at the edge for IoT devices, you're really talking about the refining of important data for these AI cellular IoT modules and all the sensor data that's collecting the modules, making sure that you use AI to slice and dice, refine the data before it goes up into the cloud because it's return on investment.
Yeah.
It's expensive to send data into the cloud. If you're sending thousands of IoT devices, let's say 1,000 Teslas in a
Right.
particular region, you need to use AI to make sure only the most important data that you design or you develop goes in and gets up into the cloud.
Good point.
Now, yes. Did
No, you're
you
right. Good point. You're right.
now? So I'm capitalizing the role of AI edge computing and advanced smartphone and AI and IoT, generative AI for the edge. But there are geopolitical issues between the East and the West supply chain. Everybody knows that. I said I will not talk about hype, hysteria, or geopolitical issues in my public speaking, at least for this presentation. I simply won't. It just makes no sense. So there are opportunities to strengthen and partner relationships in Asia Pacific, and I am positioning myself as the bridge between Western AI innovation and Asia's manufacturing capabilities because nobody else is doing it and because I can do it. So I'm capitalizing on my fluency in Mandarin Chinese. And by the way, my Chinese name is Wei Karl, Karl J. Weaver, Wei Karl, and also my regional expertise to foster collaboration. Now, everybody knows about DeepSeek, and I said to myself, this is interesting. Is it a Sputnik moment or is it an AI art of war disruption? And honestly, it's both.
Okay.
It's really, really both. Because when it comes right down to it, DeepSeek got a bunch of NVIDIA, I think it's H20s or H800s, excuse me, and they bought a lot of them in order to create the model because you need the chips to create the model.
You really do.
And so how do they get the chips? Rob, you and I have been dealing with Asia long enough. Chips can fly through a data center in Singapore and make their way up to Beijing, or
Yep.
even to Taiwan and make their way up to Beijing.
Right.
But
Totally.
the real key with DeepSeek is what they attempted to achieve, which is a mixture of experts, process, chain of thought reasoning, which is very, very important. It's a reinforced learning model, and a distillation, which it's rumored that they used OpenAI, and I think that's pretty much been proven that they did to train the model. Okay, so it's student to teacher learning model. Okay, they call it data scraping because I think eventually they're going to have some intellectual property issues with the world.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I have 300 videos on YouTube, and I didn't ask I didn't ask OpenAI or DeepSeek if they used my data. I've got 300 plus
Right.
videos for 20 years. One day, Rob, you and I will be able to monetize this stuff.
I hope you're right.
But the real winner with all this is influence at the edge. Let me continue.
Yeah.
So inference at the edge. 便利人工智能系统脱离 So, so this is really, really important. People talk about AI in the cloud. Yes, that's good for Microsoft. That's good for Alibaba. That's good for AWS. But most of what people need this stuff for is AI at the edge. And I just try to explain what it really is. It's basically it's AI processing and it's done at the edge. The edge where the device is serving the consumer. And it uses real-time processing, reduce cloud costs and bandwidth. Yes, because if you're processing at the edge, you don't need to send as much up to the cloud. You still have to send data into the cloud, but not as much because it's able to process from the mobile processor on your smartphone or your IoT device.
Right.
Efficient, it's energy efficient and sustainability. I mean, that's what I was involved in Singapore. Really, green energy and green data, sustainability, and also the growth of AI-powered edge devices. I mean, this is all happening, and I was involved in an early deepen project. But anyway, I just want to make sure people understand that AI at the edge, it's really about smartphones and IoT devices, all kinds of IoT devices. A Tesla vehicle is an IoT device, but
Yeah.
really, it's really an EV on steroids. It's an EV. It's a smartphone on wheels, but it's really a smartphone EV on steroids. That's what I think it is.
Perfect.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love
Um,
it.
and and let me move on.
Yeah.
I think I beat that horse to death. So, China's AI, crouching tigers and hidden
Everybody knows
dragons.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So, China has about four of these dragons focused on facial recognition and image recognition technologies. Um, DJI is one of the companies, although DJI also makes very cool consumer products. And of course, they make drones as well.
Yeah.
So there's a dichotomy with Western people who are always cautious about security, buying things in China. But look, China makes good products. There are six tigers focused on large language models and generative AI as well. That's why inference is very, very important. I just used the movie Crouching Tiger and Hidden Dragon, just kind of
Yeah.
a.
It's relatable to people.
It's definitely relatable.
Yeah.
Let me move forward because I'm okay. So this is the end of my Newport Technologies pitch.
All right.
So let's create the next wave of opportunities. That means everybody listening in in Shanghai, because you know,你可以发个电话，你可以发个电子邮件给我，可以发个短信，可以发电子邮件，可以在那个微信或者 WhatsApp 发个短信给我。So you can contact me anyway. Here are my contact details. Newport Technologies, 美国新港科技. This is my public speaking entity, and I look forward to chatting with you. Send me an email if you have inquiries. Thank you very, very much.